Hello, 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 and good morning to gamers around the world. Welcome back to Morning Quest. We got another great episode for you all today. Lot to discuss, a lot of Square Enix to discuss, which I know always makes you guys happy, and myself too. Big shout out to the early birds we have in the chat here. I see we got Hyrule Falcone, Nick, and Larkseen Simp. Larkseen Simp, you missed it. During our Nuzlocke the other day, your Zubat died a hero. But I'm glad you're here, Larkseen Simp. You got the best name on Twitch, and I'm glad that you're joining us this morning. Anyway, so we got plenty to discuss in regards to Dragon Quest. We got a number of trailers that I definitely want to watch. Speaking of which, let me put the volume on for trailers when that comes up. And again, not many articles, so it should be a slower day here in the lodge. Slower day for our quest, but still plenty to discuss. I see we got Josh Z, one of the GOATs, up in the chat. Larkseen Sip says, I'll have to check the VOD. Dude, it's getting wild in the Nuzlocke, man. And I'm getting so hooked. We may go live later tonight, but this weekend we'll definitely do a bit of a Nuzlocke. We're right on the eve of the Elite Four. Got to take on the 8th Gym Badge. What's going on? Lands the Master, one of the best mods in the game. Make sure you're following him on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever you hang out, Lance is there. Now, that said, make sure you're following us on all platforms, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and let's get on with it. First things first, we've got some crazy news, some big news, some news that Square Enix desperately needed. So, shout out to Noisy Pixel and Azario Lopez for putting this article out that Dragon Quest III HD 2D has sold 2 million units globally in a matter of 3 weeks, which you cannot underscore how big a win this is for Square Enix. Lan says Hamaguchi making the rounds. He most certainly is. Here, let me see something. Let me see something real quick. Are you guys coming up? No, it's just Twitch. You know what's funny? When I do the podcast or I do a live stream, the chat works perfectly. But when I do Morning Quest, for some reason, it only puts up Twitch. But anyway, with Hamaguchi making the rounds, we are going to watch a Fantasian trailer later. But this is huge because, look, here, a little swig for the hardworking men and women. Let me make something very clear. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy XVI are two of my favorite games to come out in the last 5 years. I would place both in my top 6 Final Fantasy games ever. And I think they're incredibly enjoyable experiences, and nothing I'm about to say underpins that at all. However, for what those games cost to make, they didn't sell very well. Generally speaking, both games sold very well. They sold 3 to 5 plus million copies, which is amazing sales. You give 3 to 5 million copies in sales to pretty much any franchise, they're popping champagne bottles at the studio. But the thing is, games like Rebirth and FF16 have become so expensive to make that 3 to 5 million copies sold, even if you might break even or break into the green a little bit, it's not enough profit for the company to consider it a success, financially speaking. Both games were incredible. Highly recommend both. The fact that it appears Dragon Quest III HD 2D, again, a 2D HD game, is going to have sales comparable to these giant AAA games Square Enix has made, most certainly signals that things are about to change at Square Enix, and in my opinion, actually for the better. I don't think this impacts some of the closer releases like FF7 Part 3. I think you'll see FF7 Part 3 budgeted and scaled pretty much the same way FF7 Rebirth was. But this is a wake-up call to Square Enix that you don't need to spend $150 million to make something people want. Nick says, happy for Dragon Quest, man. I haven't picked up the remake yet, as I'm still working through Daybreak and Metaphor. Once I get through those, I'll get the Dragon Quest. Yeah, it's definitely deep on my docket, too. I'm still working through Metaphor myself and, dancing around in a couple other games like Stellar Blade. And I got to catch up on FF14 now. Anyway, that aside, this is such a big win for Square Enix. And I do want to make something clear. We did talk about, the sort of censorship that this game had to deal with. It does please me that the devs are able to come forth, say their piece about why it happened, that they're not happy with it either, and that people still went out and supported the game. You know what I mean? I do think, because at the end of the day, little swig. Because at the end of the day, you cannot like something, or you cannot like a decision, but still want a game to succeed, right? You can dislike a company's decision, but still want that IP and still want that to succeed. Plus, with all these games coming at PC lately, you're not going to be able to censor anything for the PC gamers. So, anyway, moving back on. This is so huge because, again, this is a game they didn't have to break the bank for. And it shows them that, hey, there is a market for this. And this is something Square Enix really needs to lean into. I want them to keep making those big games like Rebirth and FF16. I do believe, financially speaking, they have to scale them back a little bit. Maybe make the games a little bit shorter. Maybe less side quests and things like that. But, again, less side quests and things like that. But it goes to show that, look, you have a whole back catalog. Essentially, look, Final Fantasy 1 through 6, all these Dragon Quest games. Square has a back catalog of these pixelated games that they could just easily go through an HD 2D combing of all these old titles, and they can make bank. Not only that, what I think this is going to do, because I think HD 2D is going to become a huge genre. I don't think people realize it yet. I think Square Enix is one of the first ones to the party, and I think it's to their benefit, and they have to lean into it. Because again, how many times do we pull up Square Enix financials on this show, and it's sales are down, profits are down. And that's not because the games aren't selling. It's because they're spending so much to make them. This is really a big exception to the rule. And the fact that it's selling on par with their other AAA titles, I mean, the signal should be clear. The same thing would happen if they did this with Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy V or Final Fantasy IV. Like they just remade Romancing Saga, great game by the way, but they remade it in a 3D format and it did very well. But I bet you it would do just as well if they did it in an HD 2D format, much like they did this. But that's neither here nor there. If you're a fan of Square Enix, this is great news. This is what you want to see. Because not only is this going to lead, to more HD 2D titles, this is also going to lead to, how do you put this? It's also going to lead to not only more HD 2D titles, but it's going to lead to them honoring their history more. This is a very old game, Dragon Quest III. And here it is selling competitively with new games, right? Its sales are going to be competitive with a new mainline Final Fantasy. Now, that doesn't mean Square shouldn't continue to look to the future. They absolutely should. But it's a signal that they should treasure and celebrate their past more, because look at the fruits of their labor. Josh Z says, what did they say? They basically cleared up that, like, the reason why this game had some censorship was because the payment processing companies won't let them do business internationally unless they basically unless they do what they say. Now, since then, Yoko Taro has come out and has spoken out against this too. And a lot of Japanese devs have spoken out that, like, hey, when you see these changes made in our game, it's never what we want to do. But it's a lot of these payment processors like Visa telling the developers and telling the publishers, hey, we can't do business with you unless you do X, Y, and Z, because unless you do X, Y, and Z, it's not appropriate for the country we do business. They mask it under brand protection, but we all know that's a load of crap. Back to the positive here. Great news for Square Enix. Great news for Dragon Quest. I hope this leads to more like this down the line. I really, really do. Now, let's move on here. Let's watch something. Let's watch something a little fun. Let's watch something a little fun here. Okay. So, we do cover fighting games here on Morning Quest. I'm a big fan of fighting games. I say that, but meanwhile, I'm just sitting here like, where's my Soul Calibur 7? Still playing old Soul Calibur games rather than Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6. But you know what? I gave Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 their due. Both great games. Highly recommend them to anybody who's into fighting games. If you're looking for a good one-player campaign for a fighting game, Street Fighter 6 is your game. If you're looking for stronger combat and online, I'm going to have to point towards Tekken. I think Tekken is the better game for that. Take a swig. That makes sense. Yeah, it makes total sense, man. These people, these devs, these creators, these writers, these artists, they don't want to censor anything. You think anyone at Square Enix wanted to censor Toriyama's work? And if there was, it was probably a handful. It's very clear there's some sort of corporate coercion going on here. I'm glad to see that there are some gamers out there really calling this out. I'm happy to see there's devs calling this out, because it's going to lead to a better industry. But in some ways, things have to get better before they get worse. Now, back to the Street Fighter of it all. I always say her last name wrong, but who we knew was coming to Street Fighter already, they showed off her trailer, and I think it's just fantastic here. Actually, this will get us a better view. We'll just let it roll. Let me know how the volumes are, guys, whether I need to turn this up or not.
If I piqued your interest, I can teach you all the Shiranui techniques you can handle. Come find me on Aokigahara. Don't keep a good girl waiting.
So this is also something else I love so much about Street Fighter, that I pray that Soul Calibur adapts it. I love the idea that in the campaign, you could sort of have a mentorship. Under any Street Fighter character you wanted, multiple even. I thought that was such a cool feature. Like, as I get older, the whole create a character thing isn't as appealing as it used to be, right? Oh shit, Tarnish Batosai and Adonai are here. What's going on, guys? Thanks for dropping in here, and good morning to you. It's not as appealing as it was to me when I was younger, but Street Fighter 6 found a way to, like, hack that in my brain, because, again, the idea that I can create a character, and now that character can mentor under Ryu, or can mentor under Cammy, or can mentor under Ken, or can mentor under Juri, that was so fun in the campaign, to feel like I was a student of these characters I'd been playing as for so long. I think that's cool how in this My trailer, that's what they're leading with. Because again, I really think this is such a huge appeal to the Street Fighter series. Because I feel like this might sound weird, but due to that function of creating your character and choosing who you mentor under, I almost feel like I got to know Ryu and Cammy and characters like that on, like, a personal level, which was a cool, like, level of immersion I wasn't used to in fighting games. Now, enough of my yapping. Let's get back to it. Smooth. Hold on. Yo, come on. That reminds me of Cammy a little bit. That move. All right. Let's see if I can get a good shot. 1 second. Let me see this. Oh, hold on. There's more here. So I've got to say, Capcom, Capcom, I'm just letting you know, the coolest character design in your game is no longer a Capcom character. I liked a lot of the designs in Street Fighter 6. I really did. I won't lie. I preferred pretty much everyone's traditional design. Like, a lot of characters got new outfits, new looks. But, like, take Cammy, for instance. I really liked Cammy's new getup. The England sort of jacket, the tight, like, gym pants. All that was cool on Cammy. I preferred her traditional outfit. And I ended up feeling this way about a lot of the designs in Street Fighter 6. I thought they were cool. I understand it's a time skip, so they got to make these characters look different. But I found myself, as much as I enjoyed Street Fighter 6, preferring traditional character designs within the series. And now here we are. And I gotta say, I think Mai is the coolest character design in the game now. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, you finally made it. The Shiranui clan welcomes you.
And again, that to me is such a cool little feature because a lot of fighting games have done this create a character thing for quite a while now. In fact, Soul Calibur pioneered it in a lot of ways. And since Soul Calibur 3, they've kind of had this idea of you can create a character, insert it in our world. And that's been cool to a degree, but I gotta say, nobody's done it like Street Fighter. And again, if you notice, like with the trailer, they're really leaning into the idea of like, okay, she's here, you can mentor under her now. You can go to I always say it wrong, the Shinoriri clan, mushmouth over here, and learn their techniques. That creates a level of immersion that many other fighting games really haven't achieved yet. Because as much as I do love fighting games, and I've held this position for a while now, a lot of their one-player content needs to evolve. Street Fighter succeeded in doing so. Tekken, not so much. And I have to give Street Fighter the credit, as much as even though I like Tekken better. They're crushing it. It will be difficult to play with just one hand. Oh, there it is, Rojix. There it is. I also can't wait to play her as Aki main. I need a second femme fatale. Aki is crazy. Aki's crazy. And I couldn't get used to her moveset. But I did appreciate it for what it was. But yeah, here she is. I hope more. And this is something that's cool too, man. And like, this is just as true for when Kazuya got into Smash Brothers. When one fighting game character crosses over into another fighting game's universe, it really makes the fighting game community feel connected, right? Now, look, a lot of pockets on the internet call themselves a community, but they're not actually a community. You know, just because everyone's a fan of something doesn't make you a community. But the fighting game community, from what I can observe, is a community. And crossing over these different fighting series and putting them in each other's games, to me, is such a celebration of the genre itself. And it's such a great way to make sure characters like Mai and Terry aren't forgotten. Again, Smash is good for that too. Although, come on, Sakurai. You couldn't put Mai in there. You couldn't put Mai on the stage. I know Smash is for good boys and girls, but Mai's a good girl. She said so in the trailer. Anyway, it's really cool to see. It is really cool to see. All right. How are we doing on time? Because I've got a feeling I need to jump into my next topic. Yeah, I most certainly do. Okay. Let's talk about, for a minute here, what's next for Square Enix before we go on to watch a couple more trailers I've pulled up. And we do have a Square Enix trailer we're going to watch. But here's the thing. Dragon Quest in mind, Street Fighter in mind, now that we've done those two. What's next for Square Enix? This is the big question. This is the big question now, right? What's next for Square Enix? Because for the longest time, guys, if you hadn't noticed, there was always something for Square Enix to look forward to in terms of what to market, right? For the longest time, it was FF16. And then when 16 was done, it was Rebirth. And then when Rebirth was done, it was FF14. And when FF14 was done, it was Dragon Quest. So those 4 games essentially have dominated the marketing cycle for the better part of 2 years now, right? Those were the 4 big flagship releases. And again, they've dominated the cycle for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years now. Here's the thing. Now that Dragon Quest is out, guys, what's on the horizon? There's not a notable Square Enix release on the horizon. Now, there are some more niche things on the horizon for Square Enix, but when it comes to its major flagship IPs, be it Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Dragon Quest, there's nothing on the horizon for them to market, for them to advertise. Now, Square Enix, for all their warts here and there, are a very smart company. So if you don't think there's something lying in wait right now about to be announced, I don't know what else to tell you. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to be a Kingdom Hearts game, or it's going to be a Final Fantasy, or it's going to be a Dragon Quest game. But what I am telling you is there is a vacancy. There's a vacancy in what Square Enix can advertise. And I'm seeing the chat pop off right now, both Lance and Josh, saying it could be Final Fantasy IX. Right? And even Nick pops in. Final Fantasy. That's the favorite. Let's put it that way. Final Fantasy IX is the favorite. Here's what I'm going to say. We know Square Enix is doing everything in their power to bring Missing Link to us in 2025. We know it was their plan to do 2024. And look, between spring and summer, I'd put a lot of stock. What's up, Noct? What's up, Luz? I'd put a lot of stock in Missing Link being ready by spring, summer. Honestly, if the game isn't ready by spring, summer, it'll probably end. I wouldn't be shocked if it got canceled altogether. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think Missing Link we can expect in spring, summer, because again, they originally planned for 2024. Now you know they're planning for 2025. They want to launch when the weather's nice. I'm not saying anything mind-blowing here. I'm not saying anything controversial or thought-provoking. Just pointing out that in Square Enix's vacancy, it is primed for a good run for Missing Link. However, Missing Link is a mobile game. So I don't think Square Enix is going to focus too much marketing on Missing Link, going back to what you guys were posing. I think Final Fantasy IX or some sort of Final Fantasy remake, subtitle, spin-off may very well be announced in the next couple of months. I'm going to posit one other possibility. It could be Dragon Quest XII. I only say that even though I doubt the game will be ready in 2025, but in terms of like announcing and getting people hyped up, you might see a Dragon Quest XII teaser simply because Dragon Quest stocks are high right now, man. Dragon Quest 3 is making a ton of noise, selling a ton of copies. So if they teased Dragon Quest 12 in some way, it would be such good timing because the series has a lot of goodwill and a lot of noise right now. However, we've heard about this Final Fantasy IX project forever. We haven't seen anything of it. And when we consider the vacancy in Square Enix's advertising right now, it's the perfect time for FF9 to drop. Now again, I could see a lot of different directions. I could see us headed in a lot of different directions here, whether it be Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts. The point is, Square Enix does not have a title to push towards right now. So one of those 3 series, or maybe Nier, right? For all we know, Nier could pop up with something and surprise all of us. Automata came out years ago. I'd like to think Yoko Taro's working on the next one. We just haven't heard any. Anyway, that aside, it could be anything. It could be Final Fantasy IX. It could be Dragon Quest 12. It could be a Kingdom Hearts Missing Link or even a KH4 update. It could be something with Nier. Point being, we can almost get cautiously excited that, again, now that 16, Rebirth, 14, and Dragon Quest have had their days in the sun and have done their thing, it creates an open opportunity for something else or even multiple projects to come forth and be the new thing that gets us all excited and talking. 1 minute. Excuse me. Okay. Moving on. Moving on for now. We can swing back on that, but I really think that's going to be a major thing to look forward to when it comes to Square Enix and 2025. Because 2025 in general for gaming is pretty vacant. And look, here's the other thing. I would be willing to bet that when the Switch 2 drops, Square Enix has a dog in that fight. Whether it be FF7 Remake port is ready for launch, or a Kingdom Hearts 3 Final Mix is ready for launch, or something like that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They can go so many directions with this right now. I'm curious to see where it goes. Hope we get news for Kingdom Hearts 4 soon. I've got a feeling that when the Missing Link marketing starts to get rolling, we could see something for Kingdom Hearts 4. Because people are much more open to Missing Link if they feel like Kingdom Hearts 4 is on the way. Right? And that's why the two games were announced together. So I think as Missing Link gets rolling, we'll see something with Kingdom Hearts 4. Okay. Speaking of Square Enix, let's watch this Fantasian trailer. I did want to talk about a few more things today, but I think this is where this will be the last thing we discuss today. Reason why I'm bringing it up, Sakaguchi, the father of Final Fantasy, he created this game a couple years back. It has since been adopted by Square Enix. They brought Nobuo Uematsu in to do the music. I'm on the fence about playing this game. So let's check out the trailer and let's discuss.
I started regaining my memories, little by little. And all along, we all fought together. Because we knew nobody, not even a god, should get to mess with our worlds.
Well, I haven't found all the answers I'm looking for.
So, and here's a fun fact about the game that I absolutely love, and I would love to see more indie and budgeted projects adopt cool alternatives like this. All the backgrounds you're seeing, guys, like this map the character's running on, these are built as toy models. All the maps were built as like diorama and toy models. All of them were scanned into the game. And the character you see is essentially running through these scanned images. And again, they do things like they animate the lava and things to bring it to life. What up, Cynic? What up, Cynic? Dude looks like 2B. Yeah, I think Square Enix has a bit of a fetish for black-coated characters with silver hair. I mean, look, we all love silver hair. You know what I mean? It's such a layup for fictional characters. Silver hair is just so cool. And it makes me feel better about going gray. I tell my wife all the time, I'm not going gray, I'm going silver. But yeah, I think what's so cool about this game is all these maps are toy dioramas that were scanned into the game. I just love stuff like that, man.
But at least I'm out seeing the world.
Can't say much for the decor, can you? Better be ready for anything.
But still, we need such power if we're to stop this world from ending.
Look at it this way, bro. You give me hope.
Let's go. It's my turn to return the favor.
I will say the designs are pretty good. It's funny, I'm looking at all the character designs, and I actually think my least favorite design is the main character here. Believe it or not. Something about Enix and puffy pants, too. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Let's go. It's my turn to return the favor.
But you weren't planning on leaving any of us behind, were you, Leo?
Now,
Chaos shall triumph over order.
show me what your multiverse is worth to you.
Perhaps they can tell you what you wish to know.
I'll get them all back, whatever it takes. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go to the God Realm.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. I'm actually not going to lie. And I think this is a problem with some video game marketing in general. I don't think that was a good trailer. All it did was tease me for the story, which is fine. I love a good story in games. Obviously. It's the whole reason this channel exists. Because when we're not doing stuff like this, we're doing a deep dive on Kingdom Hearts or a deep dive on Final Fantasy. Right? So, they barely showed any gameplay. Barely. And I don't understand how you don't try to market the cool stuff, like the fact that all those maps were made in like toy dioramas. Like, I don't know. I want this game to succeed. I want to try it. But I don't like it. I really don't like it when a launch trailer is just like all story. You know what I mean? And when you think about it, like some of the worst trailers we've ever seen are the ones that just spoil too much story. Show me how the game plays. Show me how the game plays, right? These trailers should be like 50% gameplay and 50% story teasing, not 90% story teasing and 10% gameplay. These are games. You're not selling me on a story. You're not selling me on an interactive movie. You're not selling me on a book. You're selling me on a video game. What is playing your game going to be like? You know, one of the things, by the way, we've talked about this game a lot the last few weeks. One of the things Stellar Blade did incredibly well. When it was first shown off as Project Eve years ago, you got a taste of what the combat at least looked like. And that's what got people talking. That's what put it on the map. But, and again, I love stories in games. I love them. But you have to sell me on the gameplay first, right? I show up for the gameplay. I stay for the story. Something like that, you know? The market currently pushes more for graphic designs these days. Most game trailers just push story parts. It's true. It's like all the budget's going to graphics. All the marketing's going to story. And I'm sitting here like, I love a great story. I love good graphics. But I want gameplay. I want gameplay. You know what I'm saying? That comes first. Last couple Spider-Man games were like that before launch. Case in point. I want gameplay. For instance, like FF7 Rebirth. Some of the best gameplay I've ever played. But all those trailers were so story-focused. Now, they did a good job releasing like 20-minute segments of gameplay and stuff. But that's for sickos like me. The normies and the newbies, they're only going to see your trailers. You know? They're only going to see your trailers. Put more gameplay in the trailers. I really believe FF16 and FF Rebirth would have sold better if they showed more gameplay in the trailers. It's great when they do these 20-minute segments with IGN or these other outlets where they show 20 minutes of gameplay. But again, that's only going to reach the sickos like me who are going to buy the game anyway. Put the gameplay in the trailer. All right. VA work scene mid. Relatively. All right, we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Love doing Morning Quest. I'm pretty hooked on the Nuzlocke, so I may do that tonight. We'll see. If not tonight, at some point this weekend. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Lenny Lodge podcast should be happening soon. I really want to just kind of talk about how odd a year 2024 was for gaming. We did have some new FF7 interviews that we can go over too, so we may do an episode on that. Just be on the lookout. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. See you on the next one. Love you all.